All right, good morning, everybody. So I'm recording this video on Wednesday morning, a day before many of you are watching this. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona, early in the morning. I'm going to be on a flight back to St. Augustine during the training here. So wanted to get this recorded here in advance and not reschedule this training. This topic of the 5 keys to success, significance, and happiness is a topic I've been in search of and working on and figuring out, going to, hundreds of events, such as the event I'm at now, listening to tons of speakers around personal development, reading hundreds of, if not over 1,000 books, having hundreds and hundreds of conversations with incredibly successful people living lives of significance. I've invested in spending days this past year, multiple day sessions throughout the year, a part of a group called 100X, in search of how do we make 100X impact? How do we go from success to significance? And all this time, I've been thinking about what are the keys. I've been testing it. I've been putting it into action. I've been refining it to get to where I am here today with this presentation, where I believe confidently, after years of working on this, that these are the 5 keys to success, significance, and happiness. And you could call these 5 keys, characteristics or behaviors, maybe. You could call them choices, because everything I'm going to talk about here is a choice. It's within each of our control to decide if we're going to live a life with these 5 keys, a part of our life, a center point to our life. You could call them commitments, because it's not just a one-time choice that you're going to start living a life with these keys in your life, but it's a commitment ongoing to continue to apply these 5 keys to your everyday lives, both business and outside of business, our home lives, our lives as fathers and mothers, as leaders in our churches, in every aspect of what makes up our lives today and in the future. So here we go. Excited to get rolling and share my findings on the 5 keys to success, significance, and happiness. All right. So the first key, which is the underpinning to all 5 keys, it's the key that needs to be applied across all 5 of these areas in order to have the real effect of these commitments, of these choices. You need to apply this first key across each of the following 4 keys. So the first of the 5 keys is intentionality. We hear it all the time. People have never been busier. The number one training that people ask me about, the number one question people want to ask me in podcasts that I go on, the number one challenge that many feel they face today is time management. Everybody feels they have more priorities, more things to do, that we're moving at a faster pace than ever before, and they simply don't have enough time. Some great thinkers around the topics of time management have concluded that it's not a time management problem, it's a priority management problem. We all make time for what we prioritize. Or another way to think about it is where we spend our time is what we prioritize, right? So we can say these are our top priorities, but that's not where we spend our time. We spend it elsewhere. Those are our actual top priorities. And might sound simple, but that's a pretty big realization for many. The facts, though, are that even though almost everybody at every age today feels that they don't have enough time, that they have too many priorities, that they don't have enough hours in the day, the reality of this is that for most, this is far from the truth. Great quote by Tim Ferriss: being busy is akin to being sloppy with your time, and it is a form of laziness. So busyness is a form of laziness. The average American watches 3.1 hours of television per day. The average American spends 2.3 hours on social media per day. Think about that. That's over 5 hours a day, right? That's about 30% of our waking hours spent on social media or television, yet we feel we don't have enough time, right? We feel there's not enough hours in the day. It's easy to fill up our time, right? It's easy to fill up our time with busy work, with reactionary activities, right? So we like to say here at DLP that what's important is rarely urgent, and what's urgent is rarely important, right? And what's tough is the things that are urgent, the things that come at us every day are things that then we just have to react to, reactionary activities, right? Things that act upon us, right? We don't have to do anything for our phone to ring, for text to come in, for emails to come in, for people to stop into our offices. There's stuff coming at us all day. And the easiest thing to do, the lazy thing to do, is just to allow what comes at us to fill up our time, to let other people decide how we spend our time. It's easier, right? It's easier to respond to emails than it is to do critical thinking, to make big decisions, to work on the big projects, right? It's easier to respond to something that comes at us quickly that we can take from the knowledge we already have and respond to or solve in a couple minutes, right? It's hard to focus on what's important, because what's important, we have to act upon. We have to intentionally make the decision to spend our time on that activity, because it's not acting upon us, right? We all feel we have no time, right? My wife, cyber schools our two older boys, Donnie and Alex, and she for sure spends her time feeling incredibly busy. She's, full-time mom, full-time housekeeper, full-time teacher to two boys, one of which more than the other can be a bit of a handful. And if I would have said to her, Carla, I need you to take on another responsibility that's going to be hours every day, she would have felt for sure that there's no way she could do so, right? There's no way. She has no extra time in the day. Yet all of a sudden, a few months ago now, we got the call of baby Jacob being born, and rushed to the hospital, and the next day took him home. And now, on top of being full-time teacher to an 8 and a 9-year-old, and keeper of the home and cook and everything else, she's now taking care of today a 5-month-old, right? And which is consuming an incredible amount of her time, as any of us who've had a small baby before understands how much time and effort goes into, especially those first 6 months. Yet she's handling it incredibly well. And I would say she's even more engaged, and doing an even better job as teacher and as carer of our home, while taking on the responsibility and the commitment to taking care of Jake and carrying a tremendous amount of that work. So that's just a simple example to understand that if we decide something's a priority to us, we can find time, right? We can make time for the things that are most important. It just requires us to get more intentional about what we do, figuring out opportunities that we can maximize each hour in the day, figuring out how we can, with a little bit more intentional planning, how we can get more impact out of everything we do. At the beginning of, or the starting point of intentionality, is putting intentionality around your purpose, putting intentionality around your goals, what's most important for you. Figuring out how you want to make an impact, figuring out how you want to live and leave a legacy, like we like to say, figuring out how to maximize your capacity, maximize what you can get accomplished each day, week, month, and year. You have to apply this intentionality across with grit, with discipline. So I said at the onset here that you could say each of these 5 keys are a choice, which I believe they are, but they're also a commitment. You have to commit to applying consistent intentionality day in and day out, even when you don't feel like it. One of my favorite quotes, I've been saying a lot here this past year, is many have the will to win, few have the will to prepare to win. And what that means is most people want to be successful. Most people are willing to work hard, are willing to, when things come to them, right? If somebody put a bunch of appointments on their schedule or gave them a bunch of work to do today, they're willing to work 10, 12, 14 hours to do that work and get it done. They have the will to win. They don't have the will to prepare to win, which is so much more important, meaning to do the planning, the preparation, the thinking, to maximize that each day, to choose, intentionally choose where you're going to spend your time, what you're going to prioritize, determining what your purpose is, what your goals are. That's the key here. That's where intentionality is required. It's the upfront preparation, deciding what is key to my life, what makes me happy, What is going to lead to a life of significance? What is going to make me happy? And then intentionally putting our time, energy, and effort around that. So I think one of the best ways to think about intentionality is applying intentionality across the 8 F's of life: faith, family, friends, freedom, fun, fulfillment, fitness, and finance. So we're not talking just about putting intentionality around our careers or business, but putting intentionality around all of these areas, around our health, our fitness, around our faith, around our family, friendships, what we want to put our time and make sure we're having fun and joy in our lives, what brings us fulfillment, putting that intentional focus around all of these areas. And it takes for many of us to get the most out of life, it takes figuring out how you combine these areas, how you make sure you're not thinking of these 8 areas of your life as separate, but instead figuring out how you make sure you're integrating them into your life, what I like to call work-life integration. How I think about my time is any time that I'm spending on just one of these areas, that's a single, to use a baseball term. If I hit a single, right? That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing, right? If I work towards one of my goals, one of these areas of my life, but I want to hit singles. I want to hit doubles or triples, or ideally home runs, where I'm working on 4 of these areas, at the same time. I'll give you just a quick story or example here of intentionality, and it'll play into the next 4 keys as well. So I made the decision months ago that I was going to take what I've been calling a mini sabbatical. Started it a few days ago, and I planned it out around first Staples, where I planned it around a time when my kids were largely in between their sports seasons. So we had more flexibility to travel. I guess I could say it even started further back than making the commitment to cyber school with my kids. Then I made the commitment to choosing a time of year where it was most practical for us to be able to travel. Then I put it around a couple events that I had going on, the event I'm at right now, and an event I have next week in Colorado. Then I coordinated around some of my friendships, and I have some of my close friends joining me next week in Colorado, coming in from Hawaii. So we planned a trip that made sense for us both to fly in and bring our families together, and have some other friendships and activities going on with some friends here at DLP and outside of DLP joining us at different stages of these next 30 days and some of our travel. We made a commitment as a family, or a kind of part of our fulfillment, and you can call this fulfillment, fun, and freedom, is we decided we're going to hit all the national parks. So we've incorporated that into our trips, which I'll explain. We're incorporating a lot of fun fitness-related activities, big hikes, and outdoor activities in some new places. Hiking is a big part of our fun and our family kind of hobbies. So incorporated really all of these areas here, and I have my family with me this entire time. So what I'm in the midst of right now is on Saturday we finished a playoff football game, and we flew out to Austin, Texas, spent the night there, and then in the morning we flew to Tucson, Arizona, and went to one of the big national parks and spent the morning there with my kids. Then drove up here to Scottsdale, Arizona, where I'm at now, at a part of an event. I have all 3 of my kids here, my wife, I have my mom, my stepfather, my sister, all here. So both my wife and I can go to the conference activities, but also can spend some time with my parents. They can spend some time with our kids, get to come to a beautiful place. So it turned this into a really fun, incredible activity, connecting with a bunch of friends who are also happen to be at this conference. Then I'm heading back actually tomorrow for a couple DLP related activities such as Compass Day, my kids' football championship, basketball game Saturday, and then Sunday heading to Colorado. We've got an event. We're doing some skiing with my family. Close friends are flying in, so a bunch of skiing and fun outdoor activities. I'm celebrating my son's 10th birthday. We're going to Denver for a couple of days where I'm doing an event. And having a prosperity event there, an elite event there, some of our communities, speaking, still going to have our friends with us, going to an NBA basketball game, bringing some friends out to that, then flying back then heading to Puerto Rico for a week with my family. And so incorporating all of these areas into my life while staying on top of my business priorities. I'm not checked out. I'm still working, but giving very intentional time and activities and practices into my life, where that even though my family's with me, they're not thinking they're alongside a bunch of work trips. No, there's work that I'm involving them into while spending time with them, while spending family time, while connecting with friends, while doing some fun fitness activities and fun, and having the freedom to travel around here for this whole last few weeks. Took a lot of planning and prep and organization, right? So this is an example of intentionally planning, intentionally putting focus around all the areas of my life together. It's going to be, I'm in the midst of what's going to be an amazing few weeks. Doesn't mean roadblocks don't come up, challenges don't come about, normal life hits us. Yesterday, my son was sick all day, threw our plans off, had to take care of him all day. My oldest son threw off the schedule a little bit, but that happens, that's part of life. But we adjust and we keep rolling. So intentionality is the starting point to these 5 keys. So building an elite organization was about intentionally building an elite organization. The next book I'm finishing up now, which these 5 keys will be a part of, is building an elite career, which is about intentionally building your career and in turn your life. Action items to bring more intentionality into your life is to evaluate how you spend time now. Complete this creating capacity activity that I borrowed from the Halftime Institute. Really great activity to help evaluate how to create more capacity to live a more intentional life. And then create your ideal schedule. What would be a perfect schedule? How would you incorporate all of these 8 F's to your life and live a fully intentional life where every minute of every day you're spending moving the ball across the areas of your life that are most important to you? Second key is purpose. So this is where intention starts, having intention around your purpose. Great quote attributed to Mark Twain is, the 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. One of the great ways for us to figure out our why, determine our purpose here to our life, is a great tool that we've developed over the years called the personal compass, which is designed to help you live fully while living and leaving a legacy. So it's incorporating both living a full life today while also thinking about how you want to live a legacy, how you want to be remembered. It takes into account all 8 F's of life: faith, family, friends, freedom, fun, fulfillment, and fitness. It starts with your core values, which best way to think about these core values I recommend is, if you have a family, your family core values. You'll see the example there to my family core values. Then your family mission. You'll see my family mission there. Your personal mission. It's a really critical component to our purpose is, what's your mission? Mine is, I will grow as a servant leader, leveraging my strengths, purposefully, passionately, and relentlessly pursuing God-sized goals that make a massive impact on the affordable workforce housing, jobs, generational wealth, and happiness crisis, while being and improving as the best father and husband I can be. What's your BHAG for your family? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal for your life? This is one of my favorite ones. What do you want to be remembered for? When you're no longer here, what are people going to still be saying about you? Mine is, I want to be most famous in my own home. I want to be remembered as a servant leader that made a significant impact on many lives, with a focus on the affordable workforce housing, jobs, generational wealth, and happiness crisis. What are your perfect life metrics? This may be one of the best places to start in thinking about what's meaningful in your life. Where do you want to apply intentionality? What's important to you? And the way that Lloyd Reeb, the co-founder of Halftime Institute, describes this is, imagine 30 years from now, you were sitting next to somebody. Maybe it's somebody you don't know. Maybe it's your friend or family member. You're sitting next to them, though, say on a park bench. And that person says to you, hey, Don, how did the last 30 years of your life go? What would be the characteristics? What would be the components of what happened over those 30 years that you would be able to turn to your friend and say, wow, they were absolutely perfect? So for me, as I've had a deep and growing relationship with my creator that guides my decisions, and where I spend my time, what I focus on. I have 3 happy, healthy adult sons who are living lives of significance and making an impact, right? Who are applying these 5 keys to success, significance, and happiness to their lives. I've had 40 plus years of marriage that has brought us closer to each other and the Lord. I'm fit mentally, physically, and on track to live to 150 years old. DLP has achieved Fortune 500 through impacting 10 million lives, and have spent my life surrounded by natural beauty, consistently traveling and exploring. What I'm in the midst of doing, as I mentioned a moment ago, right now. So some action items here to figuring out your purpose are to start drafting your personal compass. Figure out your core values, your mission, what you want to be remembered for, what are your perfect life numbers. And a great way to think about your purpose and what you want to accomplish in your life is to read the great book, Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. It'll really help you figure out how to go out and figure out your God-sized goals, right? Goals that you couldn't achieve without divine intervention. That'll help you drive and figure out your purpose, and the personal compass will help you put that into clearly guided ways of tracking your long-term purpose and mission, what you want your life to look like, and then breaking that down into what you're going to accomplish in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead, which we'll talk about here ahead. So that brings us to the 3rd key. So we talked about intentionality, we talked about purpose, and 3rd is goals. So once you've committed to intentionality in your life, once you've figured out your purpose, why you're here, or what you're going to accomplish in your lifetime, then it's about setting goals. Great quote here is, if you want to be happy, set goals that command your thoughts, liberate your energy, and inspire your hope, by Andrew Carnegie. So one of the great ways to start setting goals is first assess where you are today in your life. And this is a step to goal setting I think most people skip. So we've built this very simple tool that we first adopted from Darren Hardy, a life assessment tool where it forces you to go through and just evaluate very quickly. It takes just a few minutes where you are today. Often when you go and think about setting goals, we tend to naturally set goals around the areas of our life that are already going pretty well, because we've already been putting focus and energy, maybe setting goals around those areas. And then other areas of our life that we haven't put as much focus or intentional effort around, maybe not doing so well. And we need to first start where we're at. So we make sure we're setting goals that help us to live a full life, a life of significance, of happiness. So it starts with this simple life assessment we call the 8 F's life assessment, where you go through and simply score yourself across a number of questions around family, around fun, around freedom, fitness, friends, financial, faith, and fulfillment. And at the end of answering these very simple questions, scoring yourself a 1 through 5, it'll give you this little chart and it'll show you how you're doing in each of these 8 areas, right? And so if this was my score and I had a 6 in freedom and I had a 7 in fun, right? Those might be areas I want to think about adding more fun into my life, making sure to provide myself with greater freedoms. And if I'm got a 10 in family and a 10 in fitness and a 10 in my financial, I might not need as much help around goals in that area right now, because I've already built the habits. I've already been putting intentional focus likely around those areas. So after though I assess where I'm at today, then we go about setting goals, determining what we want to accomplish in life. And I think the best way to start with goals is to just allow ourselves to dream, allow ourselves to not think through the constructs of what's possible today, what resources can I have, what is possible to accomplish this week, this month, this year. Instead, let ourselves think about what do we want to accomplish, and then write that down as if you've accomplished it, right? So if you said, you want to be worth $10 million, right? Not today, you might not know how you're going to get there, but I wouldn't write down as my goal, I want to be worth $10 million. Write down, I am worth $10 million. I have a net worth of $10 million. Writing down in the present tense is a really great way to help us think about it and help us then figure out from there how we're going to achieve it. So we take each of these areas of family, friends, freedom, and just write down the goals that come out of your mind in the present tense that you've done it. What are those goals around? They don't have to all be, measurable and specific here today. Just write down what comes to mind, as many as you can think of around family, around friends, fitness, freedom, fun, fulfillment, finance. Just write them down. Let your mind think and write it as much as you can in the present tense. I weigh 170 pounds and I'm in phenomenal physical fitness, right? I have a resting heartbeat of 60, whatever those goals are in your area of life. Just write down as if you've accomplished them. Then from there, once you think of all these big and small goals, what maybe seems easily possible and what seems impossible, then we go and we apply those into what we like to call a living fully dashboard, where we say, all right, what are the 10 or 12 goals that I can accomplish this year? Right now is where we make sure that they're specific, they're measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based, smart. And we want to make sure we're setting goals around each of the 8 F's of our life, especially putting focus around the areas we're not doing as well at. So make those very specific goals to what we can get done this year. Most of us overestimate what we can get done in a day, and we underestimate what we can get accomplished in a year or in a decade. Once we figure out what we're going to accomplish this year, then we go about figuring out what we're going to be able to accomplish in the next 5 years. Lay out checkpoints for the next 5 years. We give some guideposts in the personal compass tool we talked about here a moment ago under purpose, where you can fill all this in, all these goals you can build into your personal compass tool. And we give some guidance around, goals maybe around impact, around your friends and relationships, around family. But any goals you have, checkpoints to your life. What will you have accomplished in 5 years in your pursuit of your perfect life numbers, in pursuit of achieving your mission, in pursuit of your purpose? What are the ways that you could measure that you could evaluate 5 years from now you're on track? What checkpoints would you want for your life 20 years from now? That gets even harder to think about. And it gets harder because anything is possible in 20 years. You can be anybody you want to accomplish unbelievable things, no matter where you're at today, in 20 years. It's amazing what can be done. And then maybe the hardest of all to think about is your 100-year checkpoints. For many of us, we may not be thinking we're going to be on this earth in 100 years. And if that's what you're thinking, for many of us, I think we can be. I aspire to live to 150 years old, not just have a long lifespan, but a long health span, be healthy and vibrant into my hundreds. But even if you're not planning to be here 100 years from now, what do you want to have accomplished? What do you want to have legacy will you have left? What will your kids or grandkids be doing? What will you have left to them 100 years from now? What impact will maybe your foundation or the giving you've set up have made 100 years from now? And then finally, here in goal setting, I recommend once you figure out long-term what you're going to accomplish and you figured out your goals this year, break it down into the next 90 days. What are the goals you can set in the next 90 days? The rocks that will help you achieve your 1 year living fully dashboard, that'll help you towards your 5, 20, 100-year checkpoints, that'll help you towards living your perfect life metrics. What are your top 3 personal goals for the next 90 days? And then once we set out our next 90-day goals, we break them down into what do we need to accomplish or do for the next 2 weeks to achieve those 90-day goals. So achieving really big, incredible things can be broken then down into what do I do the next 2 weeks? And then really the final step then is how do I start adjusting my schedule today to start making time for my real priorities, right? As we talked about at the beginning, we all make time for what our priorities are. And that's what we talk about intentionality. Start with looking at what is your schedule today, and then building out your ideal schedule. And as you refine your goals and figure out your purpose, making sure that those goals and those priorities are actually in your schedule to how you're spending your time. So the action items here to apply the key to living a life of significance, success, and happiness to your life around goals is complete your life assessment. It takes just a few minutes. Do an initial goal draft and complete a 1 year living fully dashboard. The 4th key to success, significance, and happiness is grit. Great quote by the author of the book, Grit, Angela Duckworth. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future day in and day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. So hopefully you're seeing here that these 5 keys, we're on number 4 here now, are all so intertwined. You need to apply grit to achieving your goals. You need to apply grit to your purpose. You need to apply grit to the intentionality you're going to bring to all areas of your life. Once you figure out your goals and you figure out why you're here on earth, and you just make the commitment to intentionally pursuing those goals, you have to apply grit, which is sticking to those goals day in and day out, pursuing the path of greatness through incremental gain day in and day out. Another way to think about grit, simple definition of grit, is passion and perseverance towards long-term goals. We have to have the endurance and unshakable commitment necessary to achieve our visionary long-term goals. What Angela Duckworth says about passion, I think, is a great way to define passion. What I mean by passion is not just that you have something you care about. What I mean is that you care about the same ultimate goal in an abiding, loyal, steady way. You are not capricious. Each day you wake up thinking of the questions you fell asleep thinking about. You are, in a sense, pointing in the same direction, ever eager to take even the smallest step forward, to take a step to the side towards some other destination. At the extreme, one might call your focus obsessive. Most of your actions derive their significance from their allegiance to your ultimate concern, your life philosophy. You have your priorities in order. Grit is about holding the same top-level goal for a very long time. Think about that there. So she talks about significance, that you derive your significance from the allegiance to your long-term goals, your long-term purpose. That's the key here of significance, is knowing your purpose and your goals and being able to allow that to drive our day-to-day activities. She talks about being pointed in the same direction. That's why we call the tool the personal compass. The personal compass. What is a compass? It's pointing you in the direction. So as you figure out your compass, your direction, your purpose, the goals to your life, applying grit to pursuing that goal, those overall goals, day in and day out, letting it occupy your mental time, your mental energy and effort, and your actual time being spent around the achievement of your goals, the achievement of your purpose. That's what grit is all about. Another simple way to think about grit is grit is what separates the most successful people in the world from everybody else. So if we just simply wanted to say, well, how do we become successful? Learn and build grit into your life. This training is on success, significance, and happiness, which requires all 5 of these keys working together to achieve success, significance, and happiness. Another way to think about how we go about building grit is talent, or talent times effort equals skill. That's how you develop skill, is take your talents, multiply by effort. If you have less skill, you need more effort. That's how you develop skill. And then skill times effort equals achievement. So effort counts twice. That's how you go about building and achieving things, is applying grit, which is this formula here of talent times effort equals skill, skill times effort equals achievement. Great quote here by Will Smith, who's maybe the most successful entertainer ever. He says, "I will not be outworked, period. You might have more talent than me. You might be smarter than me. You may be sexier than me. You might have all those things. But if we get on a treadmill together, there's 2 things. You're getting off first, or I'm going to die." It's really that simple. So meaning he's not going to give up. There's no way somebody's going to outwork him. And that is a really great lesson alongside this concept of grit. In addition to building grit in ourselves, we, of course, especially those of us who are parent, want to help those, especially when you understand, accept that grit, how powerful grit is, that grit is what separates successful people from everybody else. Of course, we want to help others apply grit to their lives. And for those of us who are parents, that starts first and foremost with building grit in our children. So or a couple of the notes here on how we help build grit in others, especially here examples to our children, is we want to praise our children around the activity or the effort, not the final results or the skills or the talent that they have, especially not the talent that they naturally have, their natural intelligence or athletic ability or so forth. We want to put our focus around the activities that will drive the desired results. So as an example, if your child gets a great grade on a test, instead of telling our child, wow, you are just so smart, right, which is a talent, you could say, tell them, I'm so proud of how hard you've been working and how much you've been studying and how much extra work you put preparing for this test here this past week. If your child does great at a sport, instead of telling your child, wow, you are just so athletic, you are just so fast, right? Things that your child has no control over, saying, wow, I'm so proud of how hard you've been practicing. And I noticed you outside practicing, that drill for hours on Thursday. And I noticed that you putting that right into action here at the game today. I'm just so proud of how hard you worked. Really, really impressed with what you accomplished here and how hard you've been working, right? So praising the behaviors, praising the activities that then will generate the results, building the habits of understanding that talent times effort equals skill times effort equals results. So praising the effort. So some action items around grit. First, start with figuring out where you are today on grit. How gritty of a person are you today? And take the simple grit test, which takes 5 minutes. Link that is there on the screen, and see where you're at today. And the great thing is, which we'll be talking more about in this final key to success, significance, and happiness, is you can improve your grit. It's not fixed. You can become more gritty if you intentionally commit to doing so. And then if you really want to better understand grit and how to apply it to your life, read the great book, Grit by Angela Duckworth. So that brings us to our final key, which is having a growth mindset. From Carol Dweck, who wrote the book Mindset, a growth mindset is the belief that you can cultivate and improve your abilities through practice and effort, as opposed to having a fixed mindset, which dictates that a person's ability is largely predetermined and unchanged. A fixed mindset makes you fearful, but you can grow. You can get better. You can improve on anything in your life. That is a big shift. And this is maybe, as we just talked about, instilling grit in your kids, maybe the biggest thing, if you have children today, especially younger children, that we all should want to instill in our children is this mindset of a growth mindset. Children who grow up with a fixed mindset, who think the set of skills and abilities, talent I have today is fixed. Nothing I can do about it. Their success in life, what they're going to be able to accomplish, what they think is possible, is going to be significantly smaller than those who believe that they can get better, that they can improve. That as long as they're willing to commit the work and effort necessary to learn and to work on improving, that they can accomplish anything. And simple way to think about this. So somebody with a fixed mindset, somebody with a fixed mindset can still be very driven and motivated and want to be really successful. But if somebody with a fixed mindset, say they take a test, they may have studied really, really hard for that test and really prepared for it. And then if they take that test and let's say they get a bad grade, they get 75. A person with a fixed mindset may be extremely upset that they didn't get a good score, right? Example in work is somebody could be working really hard in their job and then got a performance evaluation and got a C on their performance evaluation. And they may be very, very upset about getting a C in their performance evaluation. But somebody with a fixed mindset, they're going to be upset and angry and frustrated and maybe looking to point blame, but they're not going to be thinking about how can I get better, because they're going to assume this is who I am and there's nothing I can do about it. I worked hard on it, nothing else I can do, and not be focused on what they can do and improve and how they can get better. Somebody with a growth mindset who could have put forth that same effort to study and prepare and be ready for a test gets that same 75. What a person with a growth mindset is going to say is, well, what questions did I get wrong? Why did I get them wrong? And want to know how they can get better, because they understand they can improve. They can learn new things. They can put forth the effort to improve themselves and get a higher grade next time. I sat down with somebody I was interviewing just last week for a job. And this is somebody I'm super bullish on, super excited about. I actually just made a job offer to yesterday. He got a 450 on the cognitive test, which is as high as you can get. And he got 41 questions right, which is tied for the most anybody has ever gotten on one of DLP's cognitive tests. So when I showed him his score in our follow-up interview, you know what his question to me was, can I find out which questions I got wrong? He didn't want to gloat about the 450. He wasn't concerned with the 41 questions he got right. He wanted to know about the 12 questions he got wrong and find out if he could see what he got wrong so that he could get better. Even though he already had a perfect score, he wanted to know how he could get better, right? And that's why he has a 450 cognitive, or at least part of it, right? It's why he's been so successful, because he's applied this concept that I can learn anything, and I'm going to be anything possible because I'm going to be willing to do the work to get better, to learn, to grow, to improve. And that's what a growth mindset is all about. Those who have a growth mindset focus on learning over achievement. Great understanding of a growth mindset is understanding that you can change your mindset, right? This is where it gets tough to understand, right? Because somebody with a fixed mindset, they have a fixed mindset, so their belief is that they can't change themselves, let alone change their mindset. And you can. It's extra hard if you're somebody who's been ingrained in their life with a fixed mindset. But I encourage, first step is understanding that you can change your mindset, and then from there you can understand that you can change anything in your life. You can put yourself into this growth mindset. A growth mindset allows you to love what you're doing. Growth mindset makes whatever activity we're doing worthwhile, even when we don't get a great score, because we can focus on improvement. Fixed mindset, the core belief is that our ability is fixed. We can't get better. You may also feel that you have to consistently need to prove yourself. You avoid challenges because you don't think you can get better. So you avoid putting yourself in positions where you're not already fully capable. You get defensive or give up when you don't do well. You often hear, it's just who I am, right? I'm just not good at that, right? I'm just not a leader. I'm just not good in front of people. I'm just not a good speaker. I'm just not good at math. I'm just not good with conflict, right? These are things that people with a fixed mindset often think about. And some of us, even with a growth mindset, can have a fixed mindset around certain areas of our lives. Anything can be improved. You see effort as pointless on things you're not good at because you can't get better. Why put forth the effort, right? You reject critical feedback, right? Because you're not looking for ways to improve from that feedback. You feel threatened by others' successes, right? People with a fixed mindset see other people who are really successful and they feel threatened, right? And they want to discount other people's success because you're not feeling inspired by their success, because you're not seeing it possible that you could improve and get better as well. Somebody with a growth mindset believes everyone can learn and grow. You focus on learning and growth. You welcome new challenges. You persist when you face obstacles. You have the grit to fight through them. You see effort as a key to success. You welcome and want critical feedback. You learn from other successes. And in turn, you achieve new levels of achievement and success because you're willing to learn, grow, and put forth the effort to get better. So how do we put ourselves into a growth mindset? Start by figuring out what triggers you to have a fixed mindset. What happens when you receive critical feedback? Look for trigger moments that you can start shifting your thinking to, hey, let me take this feedback or this challenge and look for opportunities to grow and get better. Be willing to put forth the effort. Anything you're not great at today, put forth the effort to get better. Take risks in the company of others. Be willing to put yourself into a situation where you might not know the answer. You might not know how to do it. Be willing to make mistakes so you can get better. And then finally here, own your attitude. A growth mindset means embracing challenges, persisting in face of setbacks, taking responsibility for our words and actions, and acknowledge that an effort is a path forward to mastery, right? So one of the great quotes that some of you have probably heard before is, we all have a plan until we get hit in the face, by Mike Tyson, right? And another great quote is it's not the challenges that we face that determine us, it's how we respond to them, right? Everybody has an American Idol story, right? Everybody has heartache and challenges and setbacks and that they have to deal with and overcome, right? And what matters is how you react and how you respond to challenges, to tough circumstances, right? And that's where this growth mindset comes into play. So we all are a mix of fixed and growth mindsets, right? We all have fixed mindsets around certain things in life. I went into the first time I read Mindset by Carol Dweck, first area that I realized that I had a fixed mindset was on cognitive ability. I thought everybody had a fixed cognitive ability and didn't think people could improve. And I've changed my belief now and understand that if somebody's willing to put forth the work, they can improve their processing speed or their cognitive ability. People want to be around leaders who are confident. People want answers and solutions. People want to turn to experts. People want to be around those who are confident and can display that confidence even in uncertain times. And those are characteristics of those with growth mindset, is confidence, because you're confident even if I don't know the answer, even if I don't have experience here, I can learn and I'm willing to do the work necessary to figure things out and get the desired results. So ways that we can cultivate a growth mindset: focus on learning from every experience, even when the outcome's not what we wanted. See failures as opportunities. Be authentic. Be willing to be vulnerable and make mistakes. Stop seeking approvals from others, and don't allow failure to define you. All right, so action items around growth mindset. Accept that you can improve any area of your life or learn anything if you're willing to do the work and commit to learning. And then if you really want to learn and improve on the concepts here of mindset, read this great book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. It'll really help bring home this message with a lot more depth on how we can all, as the book says, learn to fulfill our potential. So those are the 5 keys to success, significance, and happiness: intentionality, purpose, goals, grit, and growth mindset. If you go from this training and you start improving in one of these areas, it's going to improve your life. And I'd recommend for many to start with intentionality. Get intentional about where we spend our time, what we do, where we put forth our effort. But the real magic to success, significance, and happiness, applying these together, as they're all so interconnected. As you first commit to living a life of intentionality across all 8 F's of life, as you get to understanding why you're here on earth and what your purpose is on this earth, what you want to accomplish in your lifetime and beyond. And then you start setting short-term and long-term goals around that achievement. You apply grit to your everyday activities, to achievement of those goals, to living a life of intention and purpose. And you approach every challenge and setback and opportunity with an opportunity to learn and grow and get better. It's amazing the life you'll live, the fulfillment you'll have, the happiness you'll feel and joy in your everyday life, and helping apply these principles, these keys to those in your life, your children, your family, the team members that you work with every day will not only improve their lives, but it'll improve yours as well. So thank you for listening. I hope you've got some nuggets here and that you'll take action here on at least one of those 5 areas of action as immediate takeaways from this training. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.